Dred Scott vs. Sanford by Cassidy, Brian, Lee, and Sadie.
Dred Scott was born a slave in Virginia between 1795 and 1800. In 1832, Scott was purchased by the U.S. Army Major John Emerson. Over the next 12 years, Emerson had taken Scott along to new assignments all over the country, including Fort Armstrong, Illinois, and Fort Snelling in the Wisconsin Territory. While at Fort Snelling, Dred was allowed to marry, and he married Harriet. When Dred and Harriet were en route to Louisiana, their daughter Eliza was born. When John Emerson died in 1843, and his wife inherited his estate, including Scott, Scott began his attempts at his freedom. When Scott's first attempt in Scott versus Emerson had gained him freedom, and then backfired by saying that he wasn't a citizen of Missouri, he then decided to sue again, but this time in federal court. They again found in favor of Scott's opponent, Sanford. Scott then appealed to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruling was handed down 2 days after President Buchanan's inauguration on March 6, 1857. Chief Justice Taney delivered the court's opinion. 6 justices agreed with the ruling. Sam Nelson concurred with the ruling but not its reasoning, and Benjamin R. Curtis and John McLean dissented. The court had misspelled Sanford's name in the decision. Dred Scott's argument was that when a person enters a free state or territory, the free status overrides the previous condition of servitude. Sanford's argument was to deprive a person of property without due process or justice or just compensation violated the Fifth Amendment, which states that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. The most immediate consequence of the Dred Scott decision was the Panic of 1857. It also represented a part of what had been considered a push to expand slavery. People were unhappy about the Kansas-Nebraska Act, and they thought they had rights to bring slaves into territories. The Dred Scott decision endorsed this view. When the territories expanded, the North would lose power, and many of the new states would become slave states. And slaves being 3/5 of a person would lead to slaveholding states' political representation in Congress.